want to talk to you about worldly things which deviate our attention from our God and His will. And in these series of videos, we're going to be using topics that will stimulate defensive mechanisms in many Christians. But there's a reason for doing this. First, we need to desensitize ourselves to worldly affairs. And second, we need to learn to live a Christian life in a world in which our God intended us to live in. It all goes back to being prepared. The focus of this message is financial matters and investments. I've never been focused on money. My dreams never included becoming rich. Although now in my older years, I understand I should have been more focused on money to some degree. But it was more important that we raise our children in a home which had a dedicated parent attending to their needs when indicated. This and the fact that my focus was on meeting educational goals and personal understanding. I have attained most educational goals. Reaching understanding still eludes me. I was told long ago that most people in this world will never earn over $1 million in their lifetime, and that I would probably be among them. To me, this was never an issue because my focus was never on money. However, with demanding perceived needs of the family, I worked hard to secure a little. Contrary to what I was told, I have easily earned over $1 million in my lifetime, and it's not nearly over. Earning it and having the ability to secure it, however, are two completely different things. There are some, however, whose attention and focus are completely consumed by making money for many reasons. Many simply desire the security the accumulation of money brings at the present and for the future. Others desire to use the money to buy things, vacations, a new and bigger house, toys, or a new car. There's nothing wrong with the accumulation of money. There's no offense committed against our God for being rich. Where we run into problems is when we become invested in this world so much that we become separated from our God. To make money, we must attend to the job at hand, and almost all of us are required to work to sustain ourselves. For most of us, to make a lot of money requires us to commit more and more of our time and energy in that pursuit. When our attention and focus is on making money to this extent, there's very little time to attend to God's will. The point of the parable of the rich man and Lazarus wasn't about the accumulation of money or being rich. It was all about failing to attend to the will of God. The rich man failed to demonstrate charity and mercy when it was clear Lazarus required. In being consumed by our work, we risk becoming separated from the expectations and obligations our God has for all faithful Christians. It may be the rich man never even noticed Lazarus, although it would seem unlikely anyone would notice a person outside the gates of his own property. However, the parable doesn't elaborate on this. Maybe the rich man saw Lazarus but viewed him as a lazy man, not willing to even work for his own survival. We'll never know. The parable didn't elaborate on this point. It seems more likely that the rich man was so consumed by his business and financial affairs that he simply failed to remember the expectations of his Lord. The expectation and obligation to love one another isn't just a Christian concept. It was an Old Testament concept as well, and it's something all faithful Christians are expected to adhere to. If we desire to accumulate money and wealth as faithful Christians, there's nothing wrong with that. However, if it demands too much of our time and serves to divert our attention from our God, His will, or in any way makes us look at those of less worth to be lazy and undeserving of our assistance, it's then in which we run into trouble with our God and His will. Jesus delineated what will happen to those who fail to demonstrate love through the acts of charity, mercy, forgiveness, and preaching. He never indicated that we should categorize the needy in terms of laziness or undeserving. He instructed us clearly that if we neglect feeding the hungry, providing drink to the thirsty, shelter to the homeless, clothes to the naked, blankets to the cold, and ministering to the imprisoned or those of diminished spirit, then we will be rejected from our hope. We can justify the time we put in at work and money spent on frivolous things all we want, but all our arguments will fall on deaf ears if we fail to attend to the will of God to the best of our ability and repent when we fail. For those of us who refuse to believe the outcome of these parables and stories apply to us, faithful Christians, we must remember why the parable of the indebted servant was provided to us by Jesus. If we recall, Peter approached Jesus and asked him how many times he must forgive his brother his trespasses. 7 times? Jesus' response to Peter was not 7 times, but 70 times 7, basically forever. He then relates the indebted servant story to Peter and to us. The last part of the story, as we may recall, ends with the servant's master handing the servant over to the ungodly beings to suffer his fate. Jesus then refocuses his attention on Peter and says, "The same will befall you if you fail to forgive your brothers their trespasses from your heart." In hearing this story, we must remember who Peter was. He was the first of the 12, the rock, the blessed, and the holder of the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Oh, and we all know he possessed faith, right? We must ask ourselves what Jesus indicated he wanted us to do, commands us to do, if we have any desire in realizing our hope. More importantly, for some, what will happen to us if we fail to meet those expectations? If Jesus is warning Peter, the blessed, what will happen to him, we should have all confidence we will surely face the same fate. Faith will not be enough to realize our hope. This is the message of the kingdom of heaven.